Charlie, if the girl's parents is delaying for the marriage, impregnated, when you impregnated, the father can't say anything again. It sounds wise, sounds nice. This is what it means to go to say. Now, let's pick these two broad pathways and let's begin to look at them into details. Number one, if you live by the tree of life, you live by what God have said and what God is saying. This means if you are going to live by the way of the tree of life, it is not instinctive. It won't come to you. You must pull yourself to always find out what has God said and what is God saying now. However, if people live by the way of the tree of knowledge, they live by what man thinks or says or the opinions of men. So here, it is what God says versus what man says at the expense of God. Number two, you live by love of God and fear of God. Will God be pleased with this situation? Here, love of God and fear of God. Versus here, we live by love of self and fear of men, or what culture says. So whenever you know you must stand for God, but you are afraid if I stand for God, nobody will talk to me. Everybody will say they are no longer my friend. Anytime for fear of what society says, you go toe and you compromise on what God has said, you are walking in the way of you care only about things that people think are. So what does it mean to be satanic? To think about things people think are important at the expense of what God thinks. That is all it means. So for you, if the ultimate reason for your living are your parents, is me, your pastor, is a friend, and it is not God, you are choosing the way of devils. Why? Because the Bible says the fear of man is a snare. The fear of man is a snare. So why do you want to do the right things? It must be because of God, not just because pastor said, not just because daddy said, not just because mommy said, but because God said. And what mommy is saying aligns with what God is saying. That's why I go that way. These are difficult life choices, and it's not easy. The fear of man bringeth a snare, but whoso putteth his trust in the Lord shall be saved. Now let's go back to the Matthew 16:23 again. ERV. Jesus said to Peter, "Get away from me, Satan." Who is Satan? You are not helping me. So Satan is one that doesn't help God, that doesn't help Christ. How does he not help Christ? You don't care about the same thing God does. Okay. Then what does that also mean? You care only about things that people think are important. This is what it means to go the way of Satan. The way of devils is to tell you, Charlie, if the girl's parents is delaying for the marriage, impregnated. When you impregnated, the father can't say anything again. The father will agree. But then the lady will come to me. Listen, this thing that they don't understand. Impregnate me. When you impregnate, my mother doesn't have anything to say again. It sounds wise. At times your mother will come to you. You know, in this family we are not plenty. Give birth. Don't think about marriage. I'll take up the children for you. You think your mother is being good to you? It sounds nice. It sounds very nice. This is how to go the way of devils. It is to go the way of self. It is to go the way of the natural man. So who is that one that is living the way of devils? He's that one that is living the life that is full of oneself, and doesn't care about the things of God. It is that life where all you care about is yourself and what others think about at the expense of God and everything God says. Let's look at some more. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3 to 4. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3 to 4. We are still looking at Antichrist. Who is this Antichrist? Number one, to be antichristic is to go the way of devils. To go the way of devils is to choose your own way at the expense of God. And it is to live life according to the way of the tree of knowledge of good and what? Evil. I hope you are getting me. Okay, now let's look at it some more. What is Antichrist? What does Antichrist seek to accomplish? Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a fallen away first, and that man of sin be revealed. And we know this is talking about the Antichrist, the son of what? Perdition. What is his maneuvers? What does he seek to do? Who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called. Notice the Bible didn't say all who is called God, but all that is called God. So when Antichrist is working, Antichrist seeks to oppose and replace all that is called God. What does it mean, all that is called God? all that has the insignia or the signature of God on it. Now, what is all that has the signature of God on it? Number one, God himself. Number two, Christ and the church. Number three, humanity. I'm going somewhere with this. What is all that is called God? Number one, God. Number two, the church. Number three, human beings. So the spirit of Antichrist, when it is working, it seeks to, number one, oppose, and number two, replace all that is called God. And what is all that is called God? God himself, the church, and humanity. So Antichrist is anti-God, anti-church, and anti-humanity. The Antichrist spirit is anti-God, anti-church, or antichrist, and it is anti-humanity or anti-humanity. When Antichrist is working, it does not work in the interest of God. It does not work in the interest of the church, because the church represents Christ. Christ is the head of what? The church, and the church is the body of what? Christ. And when the Antichrist has succeeded in weakening the strength of God in society and the strength of church in society, then what it seeks to do is to corrupt humanity. So if Antichrist is going to work in your life, the first thing that it will seek to do is to weaken the voice of God in your life. They make you now downplay the place of the church. When Antichrist now succeeds in this too, the next thing is to make you now devalue your own self. But you won't see it as a devaluation and a dehumanization of yourself. You know, one time they came to Jesus. Remember, we are looking at Antichrist opposes all that is called God. Some people came to Jesus one time and they said, Jesus, should we pay tax? Look at the question, answer Jesus gave them. He said, bring the coin. Do you have coin here? Bring me the coin. He said, they brought the coin. He says, whose image, whose superscription is on the coin? They said, it's Caesar. Then look at what Jesus said. Give to Caesar the things that belongs to Caesar. What are the things that belongs to Caesar? The things that have Caesar's image on it. So if the coin has Caesar's image on it, then we should give the coin to what? Caesar. That's why we should pay tax. Then it says, give to God the things that are God's. What are the things that are God's? The things that have God's image on it. I want you to follow me. If that which belongs to Caesar are the things that have Caesar's image on it, then what are the things that belongs to God? The things that have God's image. Wonderful. In Genesis, we are now told that man is now made in the image of God. So imprinted on man is God's. Wonderful. So is Caesar now a human being? Now, if Caesar is a human being, then must Caesar be given to God? Now, Antichrist now works against that and says we should separate the church from state. We should separate religion from the state. That when we come to the matters of Caesar, we shouldn't bring anything Bible says. This is the reason why in your classroom they don't want you to say God. As soon as you say God, your mouth looks dry. It looks as if you are in a very strange area. That is where the problem is coming from. Because Antichrist is working to destroy humanity. And to destroy humanity, you must weaken God and weaken the place of the church. If the coin belongs to Caesar, so they are saying we should take religion out of governance and financial and economic issues. Okay, Caesar, how should he use the coin? Who tells Caesar how to use the coin? What percentage of tax should Caesar take from us? Who gives him that wisdom? If for you, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar means this is Caesar. This is religion. Don't bring us together. The question is, when people get into government, who rules them? What controls them? What informs their policies? There should be something that is controlling Caesar, so he doesn't do whatever he wants to do. And here in Africa, you don't say give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar means let's go and pour libation. We do ancestors own small, small. Then we do prayer own small. No, it's Nana a human being. If you can answer that yes, then we can go on. Except you say Nana is not a human being. If Nana is a human being, then according to the Bible, he's made in God's image. If he's made in God's image, then as a human being, God instructs him what to do when he sits on the throne. Nana can't just do whatever he wants to do, because this Satan has succeeded in making us not think like this, not even understanding the way of the Antichrist. You rarely hear pastors preach on economics. You rarely hear pastors preach on politics. Then the pastor would find a nice way to say, me, my own is Bible. Mine is not government. I'm focusing on my work. Okay, let me ask you a question. You are now focusing on your work. What if the president comes and the president is a church member? What will you preach? Now that you're a pastor, you are focusing on your work. Are you saying that if the MP comes to church, there is nothing from the Bible to teach the MP? If the lecturer comes to church, there's nothing from the Bible to teach the lecturer. That makes you think that there is a realm of life that only you are supposed to control. God doesn't come here. And although it sounds nice, it's the way of the Antichrist. However, if you go the way of Christ, you are for God, for the church, and you are for what? Humanity. Listen, if you really love human beings, you must choose the way of Christ. Most of the time, humanitarian people think that those of us who are religious, we don't care about human beings. The best way to love human beings is to go the way of Christ. Because if you don't go the way of Christ, you will destroy men. You will love them in ways you are not supposed to love them. Antichrist works against God, against the church, against humanity. Christ works for God, works for the church, and works for what? Humanity. Now, let's pick these two broad pathways and let's begin to look at them into details. Draw a table. Tree of life. I'm going to give you characteristics if you are living by the tree of life, and characteristics if you are living by the tree of what? Knowledge of good and evil. Whether you are going by the way of the tree of life or you are going by the way of the tree of knowledge. Number one, if you live by the tree of life, you live by what God have said and what God is saying. This means if you are going to live by the way of the tree of life, it is not instinctive. It won't come to you. You must pull yourself to always find out what has God said and what is God saying now. That is why whenever you are living by this way of life, the tree of life, it looks as if you are struggling. It's like, Papa, when I want to read my Bible, I'm always sleeping. Yes, that's because you are walking on the true path. The true path is difficult. It's exertion. Because the world we live in now, because of what our father Adam did, automatically on autopilot, it goes on the negative. Have you wondered why when you have a bad dream without prayer, it comes to pass? But the dream you were flying airplane till now, it has never come to pass. All the money you were dreaming you were having, where is it? Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? Yeah, but that bad dreams, you don't force bad dreams for bad dreams to come to pass. Why? Because the world is on autopilot into negativity. It's on autopilot. So if you are going to live by the way of the tree of life, it is discipline. It is effort. You must force yourself to read. You must force yourself to do your quiet time. You must know your Bible. If you don't, I don't see how you can live the way of the tree of life if you don't know what God has said and what He's saying. However, if people live by the way of the tree of knowledge, they live by what man thinks or says or the opinions of men. So here, it is what God says versus what man says, thinks, opinions of people at the expense of God. Number two, you live by love of God and love of men. You live by love of God and fear of God. Here, love of God and fear of God. The love of God constrains you. And the Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of what? Wisdom. So you live by the fear of God. Will God be pleased with this situation? Will God be happy with this situation? Versus here, we live by love of self and fear of men, or what culture says. So whenever you know you must stand for God, but you are afraid, if I stand for God, they will cast me out of the family. If I stand for God, the class, nobody will talk to me. Everybody will say they are no longer my friend. If I stand for God, all my friends will leave me. And for some of you, when you get born again, that's the first test. The first test will be, you are going to be a Christian and you must lose all your friends. Anytime, for fear of what society says, you kowtow and you compromise on what God has said, you are walking in the way of foolishness. Vis-a-vis, you are walking by the way of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. At the end of the day, death will be produced in your life and death will be produced in society. When we live by the tree of life, we live by truth. When we live by the tree of knowledge, we live by lies, falsehood, deceptions, manipulations. Why do you lie to the people you love? Why is that you say you love your mother, but you can look in the face of your mother and lie to her? Why do you do it? Why do you lie to that boy who wants to marry you, yet you say you love him? He's the air you breathe. You know your problem. You are trying to achieve commitment, a certain endearment from him to you, but you are using manipulation to get it done. At the end of the day, it will backfire. You will be more hurt than if you have told him the truth. Listen, anything you use lies to begin, it won't last. Anything you use lies to begin, it won't last. The earlier you start building your life with truth, the better. Our generation has become a fake generation. We fake everything, including hair. Fake everything. I'm not saying hair is not good, though. I get what I'm trying to say. But the fake level, my God. The question now becomes, what is real? This is the reason with artificial intelligence, AI. That's why the issues are, what is real? Because we have become a generation that don't like truth so much so that even when we're developing the artificial intelligence tools, we didn't put within artificial intelligence the thing that can make us separate truth from lies. And now we are now complaining again. Who created artificial intelligence? Is it angels that came from heaven? So any day you are building your life on lies, on falsehood, on deception, you are choosing the way of foolishness. That is to say, the way from the tree of life. Sorry, tree of knowledge of good and evil. It sounds very good, but then nothing good will come out of it. When you go by the way of tree of life, you choose the way of wisdom. When you go by the way of tree of knowledge, you go by the way of what? Folly or foolishness. When you choose tree of life, you go by righteousness. When you choose the tree of knowledge, you go by unrighteousness and wickedness. Righteousness versus unrighteousness stroke wickedness. Again, when you go by the tree of life, you go by God's wisdom. When you go by the tree of knowledge, you go by man's wisdom, which graduates into demonic wisdom. God never intended for you to live this life solely by your natural abilities and wisdom. And that's how come anybody that goes by natural wisdom only at a point peaks, and then they begin to look for super consciousness and super wisdom. Is it any wonder some of our richest guys, they are all into yoga and Eastern meditation techniques? Because a time is going to come, your natural wisdom is going to lock. You will need to now access a wisdom beyond what this natural sense can give us. Listen, in our days, AI is going to give us some of the mind-blowing innovations and ideas. What will be that extra you will have? You must hear from a spirit. This is the reason why these Eastern philosophers and these Eastern religions are now moving into America and Europe.
Shalom, shalom. Please.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, please. Mommy, shalom, shalom, please. Reformers.
Wisdom. Yeah.
And the second one, you said God's wisdom.
Yes, please. Yes. So both of them are the same. But thank you. The only reason why I have separated is that I wanted to give attention to demonic wisdom. Okay. So listen. There is a wisdom somebody can contact by going into the spirit. Okay, somebody can actually meet a devil, and the devil can give him ideas as to what to come and build. Okay, it is because of that aspect I separated it from this. So here I'm talking about wisdom in general, foolishness in general. But there is a realm of foolishness a devil must give it to you. But that foolishness is not foolishness, it's actually wisdom. It is a wisdom coming from an encounter with a devil. So much so that if you are not matured, you won't think it's foolishness. Jesus, when he met Satan, after he's finished fasting, he met Satan and he came and Jesus was holding the stone. You throw it up like this. Thank you and says, my guy, you just finished fasting. Eh? This stone can turn it into bread. Is it not a nice idea? But it is foolishness. Why is it foolishness? Because Jesus, many years later in his life, after that fasting, is going to turn many bread, small bread into many bread, and he's going to gain name for the Lord. If he turns the stone into bread now, what has he done? He has used the power of God to fulfill a selfish desire. But Jesus is going to have power to turn bread, not to feed himself, but to feed many. To do that was to have abused the power of God, number one. Number two, to turn the stone into bread was to have done a miracle at the instruction of Satan. And then who is the Lord of Jesus? Good. So just as I'm training you here and I'm speaking to you, you will also have people also in the other side of the wall where they are actually being trained by demonic forces. Just as I'm teaching you like this, there are people that are being taken into Satan, into Mars, into the water kingdom, and they are being given wisdom. So that special extra is what I'm separating it from foolishness. But that is foolishness. Okay, that's the only reason why I separated it from that. I hope you are getting me. Thank you. Let's celebrate it. Again, when you walk by the tree of life, you walk in the spirit by faith. Here, you walk by faith. I say, if you are going to walk by the way of life, you will need your effort plus miracles and blessings to succeed by faith. However, if you walk by the tree of knowledge, you are going to walk in the flesh by your senses. This way here, hearing God, having a personal devotion with God, the ability to hear God's voice matters, because there are decisions you will take today. It doesn't look good. All the statisticians will tell you, you are stupid. Why are you doing that? But if you have heard God, remember, God is eternal. When you hear from him, you are hearing from the future. You are not hearing from the past. And when you hear God, you are more current than tomorrow's newspaper. So your security is your ability to hear God and to walk by faith. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. But if you walk by this, all you do is you do calculation 1, 2, 3 plus 4. I'll get here after that 3 years. I'll go here. I'll go here. Me, I don't like a guy that have a dre here. I don't like that one. I don't like a guy that have more pimples. No. So you are calculating everything. Me, I don't want a short boy. So bad. Now when you want to kiss me, you must now do like this. No, I don't want. So you are you are calculating everything. You are walking by the tree of knowledge. You will miss what God has for you. When you walk by the way of life, you walk by love for God and love for others. Love for God and love for others. Love for God. Here is love of God. Here is love for God and for others. The tree of knowledge, what do? You live for love for money. Love for money. Money is what drives you. Love for money and love of self above all. And here you can sacrifice anything just to please yourself. You can sacrifice anything and anyone just to please yourself. If you are not satisfied, you don't care. If everybody must suffer for you to be satisfied, that's what you go for. If the thing will not make money, they shouldn't talk to you about it. The only thing that motivates you is monetary gains. There are reasons for what you can do. Your money is little. You won't go that way. Money is the ultimate goal, not God, not others. If you go by the way of the tree of life, you will produce life in your life. If you go by the way of the tree of knowledge, you produce death in your life and death in society. So where from all the chaos, disorder, death in our society is coming from here. Men are living by the opinions of people. Data coming from people that have thrown God away. Men are living for love of self and fear of society. We have become a generation of lies and false. We don't want the truth. We are living in foolishness. We follow our natural senses, what seems right to us, not what God is telling us. And here, if it can bring money, in fact, economics is the irreducible minimum. Everything must be reduced to money. This is the reason for all the confusion in our world. So if we are going to see prosperity, blessings, good success, freedom, flourishing, then we must live by the wisdom and the way of the tree of what? Life. But if we want our society to be full of death, curses, failure, material success only, dissatisfaction, distraction, slavery, poverty, deterioration, languishing, then we must go by the way of the tree of what? Knowledge. I will end here. God willing, another time when we meet, I will now take you into what life is, what constitutes life and death, so that you can measure the amount of life you are producing in your life and you are producing in society. You know, there are measurements where we measure how much carbon pollution in the atmosphere. We are going to come up with a way where we can measure the amount of life or death we are producing out of our lives. I get what I say here. Celebrate Jesus. Listen to the news with these lenses. Listen to geopolitics with these lenses. When your lecturers are talking to you, listen to it with these senses. Whoever is advising you, listen to it with these senses. Is it what God has said? Is it truth? Is it real? The question now becomes, what is real? See what is real. Meet me next time.